Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. Today I have a card to share with you that's using some products from Altenew's brand new release, including this really cute alpaca stamp set. Now, when I think of alpacas, I always think of llamas because they're very similar. They're in the same family. I actually think alpacas are a little bit cuter than llamas because I like that little smushed face that they have. And, llamas are really popular right now. They're very trendy. And I've even heard it said that llamas are the new unicorn. So when I saw this little alpaca, I knew I wanted to do a rainbow card. I stamped the alpaca onto some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White cardstock using Gina K Design's Jet Black Amalgam ink, and then I grabbed the other stamp in the set and I very carefully lined it up with the scarf on the alpaca, and I stamped it with Altenew Pale Mauve ink. Now I'm actually going to color over a lot of that scarf with my Copic markers because that pale mauve color just didn't go with the rest of my card, which was very bright and rainbow, and I just needed to bump up that color a little bit. I like that you have the different options with that scarf and that they provide it for you. So you could either color it in with your markers or colored pencils and not stamp it, or you could pick out one of your ink colors and stamp it, or you could do a combination of both, stamp it and then add some shading with either your markers or your colored pencils. As for the coloring, I'm using Copic markers, and like always, I have the marker caps off to the side in case you're curious about the colors I'm using. I didn't go crazy with this. I wanted the alpaca to be white, so I'm just adding a little bit of shading around the outside, and I added a little bit of warm gray onto his nose and feet. For my rainbow background, I decided I wanted to use some scraps, and I keep all of my scraps inside the job ticket holders with the original size paper. This keeps it nice and organized, and if you want to find out more about the paper organization, I just use the same exact method as Jennifer McGuire, so you can look that up over on her website. I picked out a bunch of colors that I thought would look nice together, and I cut them down into strips. And I didn't want all of those strips to be the same size, so I just randomly cut them without measuring. I took a piece of white cardstock cut to 3 by 4 1/4, and I went over it with my tape runner so that it was entirely covered with adhesive, and then I started to add my strips and adhere them down. Now, this definitely isn't my technique. I've seen a lot of people do this. I believe the first person I saw do this was Jennifer McGuire a few years ago, but I'm not sure if she came up with this or not. But I do know that it is a really great way to use up your scraps. Once I had all of those strips placed, I used my tonic trimmer in order to cut off all of the excess paper. Next, I took out another stamp set from the release. This one is called Dotted Diamonds, which has this awesome background stamp, which I'm obsessed with. I put an A2 size card base into my Misti, and I held it down with a little bit of tape so that it won't move around, and then I stamped that background stamp using some fog gray ink. And I just love that background. I think it is incredibly versatile, and I love how subtle it is. I popped up my rainbow panel with some foam tape onto the card, and then I took this really tiny frame, which I cut out of some white cardstock, and I'm adhering that onto the rainbow panel with some liquid adhesive, and I just put really tiny dots of that liquid adhesive all along the back of the frame. For my sentiment, I took the Happy Birthday stamp from Altenew's Ornamental Bliss stamp set, and I stamped that with embossing ink onto some black cardstock, and I'm going to emboss it with a white embossing powder. I cut that down into a strip, and I have it a little bit longer than my rainbow panel, and I popped it up with some foam tape onto the bottom of that panel, making sure to leave enough space for my alpaca. And there's my little alpaca. I think he looks so cute popped up onto that rainbow background. For the final touches on this card, I took out some clear sequins and I add them in groupings of 3 onto the card, and then I glued them down with my Gina K Designs Connect glue. I also took out my white gel pen and I added a little highlight onto the scarf of the alpaca. It's a really subtle detail, but I love adding those subtle details. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this card design. This card is part of a blog hop for Altenew's new release, so if you want to check out that hop, make sure you head over to my blog, which I'll have posted in the description down below. If you're curious about any of the supplies that I used, I will have links to those down below as well. And remember that if you click on those links, you're helping to support my channel at no extra cost to you. Thanks again for watching today, and I'll see you next time.